Outlander star Sam Heughan on Jamie's devastating loss. Both the actor and Outlander showrunner Matt Roberts weigh in on this week's tumultuous hour. This post contains frank discussion of Outlander Season 5, Episode 7, The Ballad of Roger Mac. If you're not all caught up, now is the time to leave. As some Outlander lovers suspected it might, this week's battle episode marked the end of Duncan LaCroix's Murdoc Fitzgibbons, a fan favorite who survived on the show long past the point when his character died in the books. For perspective, author Diana Gabaldon's version of the character perished in the Battle of Culloden, which would have been way back in Season 3. LaCroix was the only original cast member left on the show outside of co-lead Sam Heughan and Katrina Balfe, so this final goodbye was a difficult one for both the Outlander character and the cast and crew. Murdoc's end obviously hits Jamie hardest. After all, the head of the Fraser clan is already feeling guilty for fighting alongside the British in exchange for land. But according to Heughan, the loss of Murdoc carries an even more symbolic weight. It's like losing a part of his past, his connection to Scotland. Many book readers who loved having Jamie's godfather and longtime companion on the show past his expiration date in the novel had hoped for a happier ending. Maybe Murdoc would slip into another book character's role and marry Jamie's Aunt Jocasta, Maria Kennedy Doyle, for example. But this, showrunner Matt Roberts told Vanity Fair, was never going to happen. "I don't know if you've noticed this," Roberts said, "but our fans love to speculate. They assumed Murdoc would just take over the Duncan Innes story. We can't just do that. You can't just take a character like Duncan Innes, with all his character traits, and turn him into a character we already know. We never even discussed that." He cautions theory-happy fans from making similar assumptions about Marsley taking over for a book character named Malra this season. Roberts said the plan all along was to maneuver Murdoc into a position where he and Jamie would, tragically, wind up on opposite sides of the Battle of Alamance. This real-life 1771 century battle, which marked the end of the Regulator movement, but sparked the beginning of the Revolutionary War, is a plot point in Gabaldon's books. But while Jamie is torn up about his decision to fight on the British side in the novel, he doesn't have anything resembling a close personal family member like Murdoc on the other side. By extending Murdoc's life on the show, the Outlander writers still found a way for Murdoc to die in battle, just as he did in Gabaldon's books, just on a different continent, many, many years later, and in a manner that would come as an even more devastating blow to a guilt-ridden Jamie. A show less concerned with fidelity to its characters might have milked every last drop of drama out of the scenario, and manipulated events so that it was Jamie who had to kill Murdoc directly in the end. "I would never have allowed that," Heughan said. "I don't think Jamie ever would have done that. It wasn't ever on my radar." Roberts agrees, "We couldn't even fathom that. It would take so much work manufacturing that storyline that I think people would see right through it." The fact that Murdoc instead died while protecting Jamie was, Roberts thinks, a much more natural way to go. They never are really against each other. Their love for each other is so strong that they have to fight their own oaths, one to the crown and one to the Regulators, and still protect the ones they love. Murdoc's demise serves as the culmination for the Battle of Alamance, which, Outlander fans will notice, looks very different from the TV clashes Jamie has fought in before. For one thing, this is a gun-based battle. The sword-based hacking and slashing of the battles of Prestonpans and Culloden are long gone, and the classic Highland charge has given way to guerrilla-like maneuvers and close hand-to-hand combat. The Outlander team was eager, as ever, to be historically accurate, but Roberts said they encountered a problem there. Alamance was more of a skirmish. There's not much written about it, even when we talked to people in North Carolina. This battle setup, where audiences can only see isolated pockets of the action, is also a little easier on the budget. We decided to place it in the woods to keep the scale down, so we didn't have to show 1,000 people on each side, Roberts said. But that budget-friendly depiction of battle came in handy for Murdoc and Jamie's intimate goodbye. If that was in an open field, no one would believe it. Though the use of rifles and pistols is historically accurate here, Heughan noted one significant way Outlander glossed over the brutal realities of Revolutionary-era warfare. In TV and film, we never actually see them really reload because it takes too goddamn long. Another major historical departure is the much-talked-about crimson coat Jaime wears into battle. A general leading a militia wouldn't wear that iconic British red coat. But this striking image was too irresistible to Heughan, who lobbied hard to get Jaime there. Roberts, initially, was somewhat resistant. For me, it was less about the historical accuracy and more about the character, Roberts said. Why would Jaime Fraser put on a red coat, given what the redcoats have done to him and his family over his lifetime? Roberts sat with the idea, which was also brought to him, independently, by a Star's executive, and came up with a scenario in which Jaime had no choice but to put it in, when Governor Tryon tests Jaime's loyalty with the coat. What follows is a series of powerful moments centered on the uniform, whether it's Claire's seeing Jaime in it for the first time, or Murdoc. But the most powerful coat-centric scene comes after Murdoc's fall when Jaime, in a fit of rage and despair, rips the coat off and throws it down in front of Tryon. Any other man saying that to Governor Tryon would probably be shot or be locked up, Heughan admitted. But I think he gets away with it because he is who he is. Jaime Fraser is a very powerful man, and he commands men's respect. Jaime's emotional journey around Murdoc's death, Heughan said, tracks with a few of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's famous stages of grief. There's denial when Jaime insists on dragging his godfather's already lifeless body back to Claire's tent to see if she can heal him, bargaining as Jaime begs Claire to help, offers to do anything, get anything to save Murdoc's life. Then there's the boiling rage and anger that bubble over in the confrontation with Tryon. This is, for what it's worth, some of Heughan's best acting work ever on the show. After the anger comes a depression that presents itself as what Heughan calls a fog as the family goes to search for Roger. Students of Kubler-Ross's work will note there's one stage missing here, acceptance. He hasn't really come to terms with it, yet, Heughan observed. Kubler-Ross devotees may also note that Jaime's journey through grief comes somewhat out of order. It usually goes, denial, anger, depression, bargaining, acceptance. So, too, did Heughan's journey as an actor through these scenes. We had to go back and reshoot inside the tent because of some continuity issues, he said. Sharp-eyed viewers may observe that Brianna just disappears from the tent scene, the timeline has been altered in Jaime's realization. But I think it still works. Roberts said the reshoot was an issue of timing. In a battle episode with hundreds of extras waiting around to shoot, the days become very short. The actors, he felt, didn't have enough time to really land a goodbye of this magnitude, not for a character who had been with them since the very beginning. The players reconvened in studio months later so that, Roberts said, the actors could have the time they needed to dig into the emotional scene. This isn't the first time this season that the practicalities of an ambitious shoot have impacted the Outlander storyline. Everybody has a vision of a scene they've read, Roberts said, of tackling material that is cherished by devoted book lovers. They've done the setting, they've cast it, and they've edited it in their head. We can never replicate that, and so we can only come as close as possible with what we have. I was reading some comments about the last episode and they were asking, where was Phaedra? And we just didn't have the actress. It's things like that that the books never have to contend with. The episode closes with a stunning cliffhanger centered on Roger's fate, another instance where Roberts felt pressure to balance reader expectations and his ambition to keep audiences on their toes. Heughan and Roberts dig into what comes next for the Frasers here. But no matter what is coming, the characters, and the show, will have to journey along with a massive hole left by Murdoc's death.
Thank you.